welcome back to the channel. Or if this is your first time here, welcome. Let me ask you something before we begin. Have you ever noticed that you can't seem to fall asleep in a completely silent room? The moment the lights go out and the world goes quiet, you feel a strange sense of unease. So you reach for your phone. You turn on a fan, a white noise machine, a familiar sitcom, or a long video essay. Only then, once the room is filled with sound, can your mind finally drift off. To an outsider, it looks like a bad habit. They might tell you that blue light is ruining your sleep or that you're addicted to your screen. But psychology suggests something much deeper is happening. Your need for background noise isn't about being bored. It's a sophisticated defense mechanism for your brain. Today, we are decoding the psychology of people who can't fall asleep in silence. If you are one of these people, you're about to understand yourself in a way you never have before. 1. The fear of the unfiltered self. For many, silence isn't empty. It's full of everything they've been avoiding all day. During the daylight hours, your brain is occupied. You have work, chores, social interactions, and digital distractions. But the second the room goes silent, the distraction shield falls away. This is when your internal monologue takes center stage. In psychology, this is often linked to a lack of cognitive stimulation during the day, which causes the brain to overclock at night. When you turn on background noise, you aren't listening to the audio, you're using it to drown out your own thoughts. You are essentially using external sound to crowd out your internal anxieties, past regrets, or worries about the future. It's a way to stay out of your own head until you're unconscious. 2. The comfort of the parasocial presence. If you specifically need to listen to podcasts, YouTubers, or familiar TV shows to sleep, you are likely seeking parasocial comfort. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided bond you form with a media personality. When you hear a familiar voice, even if it's just a stranger talking about history or a character on The Office, your brain perceives it as a safe social environment. Evolutionarily, humans are not meant to sleep in total isolation. For thousands of years, our ancestors slept in groups where the sound of low whispering or the crackle of a fire meant that others were awake and on guard. Silence in the wild often meant a predator was nearby. By playing a familiar voice, you were tricking your ancient reptilian brain into feeling that you were in a safe, communal space, allowing your nervous system to finally power down. 2. High cognitive load and the race car brain. Some people have what psychologists call a high baseline of arousal. This doesn't mean you're hyperactive. It means your brain naturally processes information at a higher frequency than others. If you have a race car brain, silence is actually understimulating. It's like trying to drive a Ferrari at 5 miles per hour. The engine starts to shake. Without a steady stream of low-level information to process, your brain begins to generate its own stimulation in the form of intrusive thoughts or rumination. Background noise acts like a pacing car. It gives your brain just enough data to stay occupied, but not enough to require active thinking. It's the sweet spot of mental engagement that allows the gears to stop grinding and eventually come to a halt. The safety signal effect. For many, the need for noise is rooted in a psychological concept called safety signaling. If you grew up in a chaotic household, a loud city, or a home where there was always a television on, silence might actually feel threatening. To your subconscious, silence is the calm before the storm. You may have learned early on that when things are quiet, something is wrong. By keeping the fan running or the TV humming, you are creating a constant. This constant sound acts as a psychological anchor. It tells your nervous system everything is the same as it was 5 minutes ago. Nothing has changed. It is safe to sleep. You aren't addicted to the noise. You are addicted to the feeling of safety that the noise provides. 5. The control of chronic tinnitus and sensory processing. We cannot ignore the physiological aspect. Many people who claim they can't sleep in silence are actually suffering from mild tinnitus, a ringing in the ears that only becomes audible when external sounds disappear. However, beyond the physical ringing, there is sensory processing sensitivity. If you are a highly sensitive person, your brain doesn't have a good filter for small noises. In a silent room, the house creaking, the refrigerator humming, or a car driving 3 blocks away feels like a physical jolt to your system. Background noise, specifically white noise or pink noise, works through a process called sound masking. It creates a literal wall of frequency that smooths out the environment. You aren't listening to the noise. You're using it to hide the spikes in silence that would otherwise trigger your startle response. 6. The avoidance of existential loneliness. There is a deeper, more philosophical layer to this behavior. Silence forces us to confront the reality of our own existence. In the dark, without sound, you are acutely aware of your own heartbeat, your own breathing, and the fact that you are alone with your consciousness. For some, this triggers a subtle form of existential anxiety. Using background noise is a way to bridge the gap between the self and the world. It makes the room feel less empty. It reminds you that the world is still moving, that people are still talking, and that you are still connected to the fabric of society even as you drift off into the isolation of sleep. 7. The role of conditioned response. Finally, psychology tells us about classical conditioning. If you started using background noise during a stressful period of your life, your brain may have formed a powerful association. Now, the sound of that specific fan or that specific playlist has become a trigger for sleep. Your brain has learned, when I hear this sound, I am allowed to stop being productive. Over time, you lose the ability to sleep without it because the sleep switch in your brain is no longer controlled by your circadian rhythm alone. It's controlled by the audio cue. You have effectively programmed your own mind to require a key to start the engine. So what does this say about you? If you are someone who needs noise to sleep, it doesn't mean you are broken or weak-minded. It means you likely have a highly active internal world, a highly sensitive nervous system, or a deep-seated need for emotional security. The next time you reach for your remote or your white noise machine, don't judge yourself. Understand that you are simply taking care of a brain that refuses to be quiet. You are creating a sanctuary for yourself in a world that can often feel overwhelming. However, there is a small challenge for you. Tonight, or perhaps this weekend, try to sit in total silence for just 5 minutes before you turn on your noise. Don't try to sleep. Just listen to the silence. Notice what thoughts come up. Notice what the noise was trying to hide. Sometimes the things we are running from in the dark are the very things we need to hear in the light. If you found yourself in these words, let us know in the comments what you listen to when you sleep. It helps others realize they aren't alone. If this video made you feel understood, make sure to like it. It really helps the channel. Subscribe for more psychology that explains everyday behavior in a way that actually makes sense. And share this with someone who sleeps better with the TV or rain sounds on. Thanks for watching.